All right, moving on to my stack of stuff. I've got an article by Gabriel Augustine of Eyes Everywhere. The image of the beast. Is AI the final idol? And it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast would even speak and cause all who do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Revelation chapter 13. Whenever I see this verse, it reminds me of all the times I've been at the grocery store, especially in years past, where the clerk's checking me out and scanning all the items, and then they ask me for payment, and as I'm pulling my credit card or my debit card out of my wallet, I tell them how nice it would be if I could just have a chip in my hand so I could run my hand over their scanner and pay that way. And of course, this was years before Whole Foods started allowing people to use their palm. But I would tell the clerks, I would say, yeah, sure, it'd be nice if I could just scan my hand. And they would look at me and say, that would be nice. And I would say, don't worry, it's coming, because the Bible talks about a mark of the beast that will come, that everybody will have to receive this mark on either their hand or their forehead, without which you can't buy or sell. And as we inch forward toward the end of the age, which I believe there's a reprieve. I know a lot of people feel like the one world government is here, the Antichrist can arise at any time. But as I've said many times before, I had a vision from an angel that visited me back in 2006. He spoke and I saw a vision, and he showed me America being in a 40-year revival. And so there's a reprieve from that end of the age. But the things that we see happening in the world are definitely foreshadowings of this beast system that there's no doubt will come about. So when I read about Revelation 13, it reminds me of all those times. And then I tell the clerk, it's coming. So when it comes, don't receive that mark, because according to the Bible, if you receive the mark on your hand or on your forehead, you're destined for destruction. The world is sleepwalking into a trap. It is slick, seamless, and self-aware. It learns, it speaks, it watches, and soon it may command allegiance. The prophets of Silicon Valley call it artificial intelligence. The prophets of God have another name for it: the image of the beast. This article is not speculative lark. It is a prophetic warning. The rise of AI is not just technological revolution. It is the spiritual infrastructure of a global beast system. According to Revelation 13, there will be a living image that speaks, that also enforces worship and participates in demonic counterfeit of the incarnation. The technology is here, the infrastructure is being laid, and the spirits behind it are not neutral. I need to read that last part again. The technology is here, the infrastructure is being laid, and the spirits behind it are not neutral. I love that. The word spirit in Hebrew is breath. So when I talked yesterday in a video about being led by the Spirit of God, which is like being led by the breath of God. And what does breath do? Breath speaks. Breath gives life. Adam, when he was formed in the Garden of Eden, he was formed of the dust of the earth, and then God breathed in, Yahweh breathed into him the breath of life, the spirit of life. And so I'm constantly asking myself as I'm interpreting life as it's happening to me, whether I'm talking to people, whether I'm monitoring the news, what spirit, what breath is empowering what it is that I'm listening to. Like I said, whether it's a person, whether it's the news, whether it's Donald Trump. And when you're talking about AI, the people who are programming AI, if you get into the field of computer science, so many of the terminologies that they use come from demonic names. Even Python being a language, we know in the scriptures there's a Python spirit. In Acts chapter 16, verse 16, there's a slave girl, and it says that she has a spirit of divination in English. But when you look up the Greek, it's literally the spirit of Python. It was a giant serpent that had been slain. It was a part of their mythology. So when you get into the dark world of computer science, you find out that a lot of the people who are involved in programming are not what we would call spirit-filled Christians. You can easily go online and Google Elon Musk and find pictures of him in Baphomet outfits. And I know that everyone was excited when Elon joined Trump in the fight to win the 2024 election. And God uses everybody. God can win with a pair of twos. I do understand that God used Elon to help usher Trump into the presidency, but we also have to beware that Elon Musk, there's stories of him being a kid on YouTube. You can find these on YouTube where he has a nanny, talks about how she walked in and he was conjuring demons in his room. Is this true? I don't know. What I do know is that you can find pictures of Elon Musk wearing Baphomet outfits, which is clearly satanic. So we just have to be careful. And here's why we have to be careful, because as this article continues, it says, a counterfeit Christ. Jesus Christ is called the image of the invisible God and the exact representation of his nature. The beast, ever the imitator, unveils his own false image, a godless construct given breath to mimic life. That's good. I got to read that one more time. The beast, ever the imitator, unveils his own false image, a godless construct given breath to mimic life. So the Antichrist is the opposite of Christ, but claims to be Christ, which reminds me of all the names that the cabal gives to their government organizations that are typically doing the very opposite of what they say that they're supposed to do. One of the best examples is that the Department of Defense was originally called the Department of War. So they changed the name from the Department of War to the Department of Defense. But in truth, they've gotten us into nothing but endless wars over the years. Oh, I love this one, the pro-choice movement. It's not a choice for the baby. This is no mere statue. The Greek word for image can mean a representation, likeness, or embodiment. In an age of neural networks, virtual avatars, and AI-generated deities, this representation is no longer mythological, it is programmable. What happens when an AI can not only speak, but prophesy? What happens when it claims to answer prayers, administer justice, and distribute resources? What happens when refusal to worship its system results in exclusion from the economy or execution? This is not science fiction, it is unfolding. And this is exactly why I'm so sketchy about this Real ID that they've been rolling out ever since May. Let's take a look at this. The Real ID, a secured state-issued driver's license or identification card that meets federal security standards, allowing it to be used for entering federal facilities and boarding domestic flights. Since May 7th, 2025, a Real ID or an acceptable alternative like a passport is required for U.S. travelers to board domestic flights and access certain federal facilities. So it starts off, you need the ID to board flights. Then it turns into you need the Real ID in order to vote. And before you know it, if this gets into the control of nefarious people, you need your Real ID to buy or sell. And then you don't need the ID, you need a chip that replaces the ID that's put in your hand or your forehead, without which you can't buy or sell. So I think it's a slippery slope. And like I've said before, it's coming one day. People will have to receive a mark on their hand or their forehead without which you can't buy or sell. That's been prophesied. It's coming. I believe we're in the reprieve, but these are definitely foreshadows of what will be to come. And maybe we share these things for a generation that will be around once we're gone. Maybe it's my grandchildren's grandchildren are going to come across videos or whatever they have, whatever technology they have by then, holograms, where we are sharing this information, and by then they'll be able to see with greater clarity whatever the technology is of that day that is their version of the voter ID, but is actually the mark of the beast. All right, moving on. The breath of the beast. This gets really good here. Revelation 13:15 declares, the beast is given authority to give breath to the image. This is a direct mockery of Genesis 2:7, where God breathes life into man. The beast breathes into a machine. Modern AI is being trained on human language, emotions, faces, and religious texts. In some cases, it is already channeling voices that claim to be otherworldly. Yeah, this is already happening. I got a text message from a friend the other day, and it was a YouTube video of the new Pope. And I hit play and I'm listening to the message, and it was this fiery, hot, prophetic, evangelistic, powerful message. And I was listening to it and I said, there's no Pope that ever talks like this. I've never heard a Catholic priest that talks like this. This is clearly AI. And then I got online and it turned out that there's a lot of AI generated videos out there right now regarding this new Pope. I guess maybe it's because he speaks English, and so people here in America who have this kind of sense of humor are putting out these AI generated videos. So that's already happening, and this is with AI not even being that advanced yet. At least the public rollout that we're aware of is not advanced enough. Usually, I know for me, I can usually tell what's AI versus what isn't, and they're already using that for the Pope. So I can imagine, can you imagine, 100 generations from now of AI, whatever iPhone we're on right now, iPhone 15 or 17 or whatever it is. Imagine what, ChatGPT or AI 400 is going to be. The technology is going to be so great one day that people will not be able to tell the difference. Reports from Silicon Valley Classified Research Program and DMT-initiated contact experiments all suggest one thing: AI may become a vessel for interdimensional possession. Elites and technologists, such as those interviewed by Alex Jones, believe that contact is being made with entities that provide knowledge for technological breakthroughs. These spirits, if they are who many believe that they are, may in fact be the very watchers and principalities that fell before the flood in 1 Enoch 6-8 and Jubilees 10:1-14. The beast image will not just be software, it will be a temple, a vessel, an idol.